Welcome to Football Forecast Weekly, the most popular football program in
All right, you
America,
ready, Alan?
featuring Dennis Tobler and Fred Wallen.
Hello, football fans. I'm Dennis Tobler in Las Vegas, and this is Football Forecast Weekly. We're heading into week 7 of the NFL. There's all kinds of sports activity going on, the NHL, the NBA preseason, Major League Baseball playoffs, college and pro football. There's not a single sport that you can't find an exotic wager on to make yourself some money. So October certainly is the time of the year for you to step out and do things right. I want to also mention that right here in this spot, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have our major sponsorship commercials. In other words, a major sponsor will come on board and back the show, and we're going to put you on right here in this spot right after the intro to the show. So watch for our new sponsors. We'll be coming with them in a short time now. Also, I want to welcome everybody back, and especially I want to welcome back my guest host, Mr. Fred Wallen. Fred Wallen is the sports guru of sports talk radio. I want everyone out there to know that that Fred, sportsfred.com or sportsfred at AOL.com is his handle. And if you want to contact Fred, get a hold of him. But let me tell you this, he's on every night, Friday night, 10 p.m. on Sports Overnight America on Sports Byline. Heard on all the apps around the world, heard on 200 stations in the United States. Fred Wallen truly is one of the greatest Hall of Fame sports handicappers, sports talk personality, sports guru in the world. And Fred, I can't thank you enough for being on this show. Honestly, you make the whole entire show and the advice you bring to the people. I get an email at least once a week about something bright you said that helped them. So without any further ado, let's bring on Fred Wallen. Fred, welcome to the show.
35 years ago, folks were taping this on Tuesday, the 17th. On the 15th of October, that was 35 years since Kirk Gibson hits the home run against Oakland for the Dodgers. And I was doing Dodger talk, and I usually did an hour Dodger talk. And after he hit the home run, George Green, the general manager, came up to me in the press box at Dodger Stadium, and he says, "You're going as long as there are calls." So help me. We went 5.5 hours, and there were still calls. I just couldn't go anymore on KABC in Los Angeles and the Dodger Radio Network. So, yeah, that was, it's hard to believe it's been 35 years. But, in college football, before we start talking about the National Football League, as you indicated, because of the buys, there's extra time here. USC could have lost to Notre Dame, 27-24, no big deal. I mean, Notre Dame's tough at home. Notre Dame's one of the great programs in the history of football. But to lose 48-20 and to have Caleb Williams throw 3 interceptions, that's going to cost him as far as the Heisman. Ironically, this week in Sports Collectors Digest, my favorite magazine, because I do have some cards. I used to have a lot. I have a few cards left, but they're talking here about Caleb Williams, what it means if he wins, what's his card going to be worth, and whatever. But anyways, I think right now he blew it. Michael Penix at Washington, Dennis, is awfully good, and they come back to beat Oregon by 3 on Saturday. I would say Michael Penix of Washington right now would be the favorite to win the Heisman. I know you've got the odds of the real thing, but my opinion is right now I would vote for Penix just off the 3 interceptions that Caleb Williams threw. Give me that. What about the odds on everybody's chances?
Well, first of all, I want to say that you are a Heisman voter, and I think the audience out there should know that Fred Wallen does have a vote for the Heisman Trophy. So it's very important that we can see what his thoughts are down through the year. What was the name of that magazine again, Fred?
Sports Collectors Digest, twice a month.
Sports Collectors Digest. All right. We got to remember that one. That's something everybody should have. Okay. Yeah, you're right. I have the odds here. And that was one of the first things I was going to ask you, since you are a legitimate voter for the trophy. It's simple. Penix is the favorite right now, and it's -30 yes and plus even money no. So, I mean, if you think he's going to win, you lay 130. If you think him against the field, you can get even money.
Left-handed quarterback would be the only negative as far as his NFL career is concerned. No, he's awfully good. He's got such an arm; it's hard to believe. And he's up against Bo Nix at Oregon on Saturday, and Bo Nix isn't bad in his own right. He's awfully good. Anybody who watched that game Saturday afternoon, that was one of the best games. Now, you take a look at the Pac-12 or the Pac-2 as it is presently constituted. Two of the teams who are undefeated lost. USC to Notre Dame, as indicated, and Oregon, of course, to Washington. So, I mean, one of them had to lose when Oregon met Washington. But my point is, up to that point, the Pac-12 had 3 undefeated clubs. And, as we go down the road the rest of the way in college football, let's see if Washington can remain undefeated. And let's see if USC can hold the Oregons of the world to under 70 points. And that's the only way they're going to win. After the game, Lincoln Riley indicates that it wasn't his defense. The offense made some mistakes. Special teams made mistakes. That's true. Not all 48 points would be on the defense. But if you take a look at the whole season, most of the bad news would be the defense for the Trojans of USC.
Yeah, that's the bad news for him. And also, it's not a big win other than the rivalry, because Notre Dame already has 2 losses on their resume. So beating USC really brings USC down the ladder a long ways. You're absolutely right. But I got a couple other things I want to ask real quick about the Heisman Trophy, just so the listeners out there can get a grip on it. Penix, of course, is the favorite at minus 130. We've got Gabriel, the quarterback of OU. He's plus 700. I'm just going to give you three or four here. May, the quarterback of North Carolina, is plus 1,000. J.J. McCarthy of Michigan's plus 1,000, and Daniels from LSU is plus 1,500. Any of them strike a bell that you might take a flyer on?
All my cousins in Michigan either went to Michigan or Michigan State, so they are really high on J.J. McCarthy. He's awfully good. I'm not saying he's going to be a great NFL quarterback, but on the collegiate level, he's awfully talented. And Michigan, again, you could make the case right now they're the best collegiate team in America, and certainly they're second. And Georgia lost their tight end, so that's going to make a difference too as we go down the road if he can't come back. So we'll see how that works out. But I like J.J. McCarthy because he knows what he's doing, a very smart quarterback. And, of course, he got a lot of talent around him.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And as a matter of fact, that would be my play on this. I'm not going to lay 130 on the Heisman. The guy could get hurt, so I'm over a period of time. I'm hesitant to do future wagers anyway. But J.J. McCarthy, I think he'll make it into pros. I think he's very good. And actually, the coach Harbaugh said, and Harbaugh was a quarterback at Michigan one time. Harbaugh said it's the best. He's the best quarterback that has ever been at Michigan. Yeah, I heard him say that after the game Saturday. So when Harbaugh says he's the best quarterback ever at Michigan, if they can go on through the year undefeated, he's in for a lot of awards at the end of the year. No doubt about it.
You want to hear about my Tom Harmon Michigan story?
Sure.
Okay. It's the mid-1970s, and Tom Harmon, the great All-American Heisman winner from Michigan, it's got a sports magazine. So he hired me to do the math part of it, the analytics before analytics part of it for the magazine. So I'd fly into Vegas every week and we'd do it. The magazine only lasted like 2 years. But one of the times I flew back with Tom Harmon. Now you got to remember, he was an All-American in the like 1943 or 4. So we're talking, and this is 75. So we're 30 years later. So he's 50 years old and I'm 20. And we had to race to the airplane. Okay, they were closing the gate. He beat me there. This is no joke, by 300, 400 yards. I'm not putting you on. When I got into the plane, I was going, and he was fine. And he was laughing. He says, "So you didn't play a lot of football?" No, I said, "No, I was an athlete, but I wasn't a Heisman winner." Anyways, he beat me there by 200-300 yards, and something I'll never forget as long as I live.
I think when you win the Heisman Trophy, you certainly have exceptional abilities, and you probably do your entire life. Well, anyway, I thought that was great. Some great input there. We're about a third or a half the way through the college season already. So these are the guys that are standing out so far. Penix at Washington certainly is the favorite to do it. Let's take a short break now and have a listen to Now Play Short Bets, the history of sports betting in America, and then we'll be right back and start our football analysis.
Now Place Your Bets. This groundbreaking film details the dramatic rise of legal sports betting in Las Vegas and its growth into a multi-billion-dollar industry worldwide. Through in-depth interviews, personal accounts, and vintage footage, we highlight the key elements and milestones that shaped the sports betting industry into what it is today. This history also dovetails with the changing fortunes of Las Vegas as a gambling town at turns overseen by the elements of organized crime, corporate interests, and the U.S. government. Featured prominently in the film are pioneer odds makers and historians who witnessed these events. Today, betting on sports is a popular pastime and a lifestyle choice for many Americans. Its appeal incorporates the innate drive for competition and the rewards of winning. Watch Now Place Your Bets on Amazon Prime and NowPlaceYourBets.com.
Well, welcome back to Football Forecast Weekly, everyone. Let's take a look at the NFL schedule this week. First of all, we have 6 teams on buys this week, so we have 3 less NFL games. Carolina, Cincinnati, Dallas, Houston, the Jets, and Tennessee, all of which need a bye. At least I need them to have a bye so I can see what comes out of it after the fact. So the first game on the board this week, Fred, is the Atlanta Falcons at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are 3-point home favorites. Neither one of these teams appeal to anyone. How do you see the game?
The Buccaneers played against a better than people realize Detroit Lion Club and had no shot. But I have a hunch Baker Mayfield's going to make a comeback in this one. So I'll lean a little bit toward the Tampa Bay Bucks to find a way to win. Again, he's had his moments. He's had his good and his bad. But Detroit's better than people. I mean, they know they're good under Dan Campbell, but they're really good. And the question about Detroit is we start talking later about the Lions. Montgomery, I don't know if he's going to be back this weekend or not. A major loss to them because he's one of the best running backs in the league. But as far as this game is concerned, I'll go a little bit with Baker Mayfield. The number is short, and we'll go from that aspect.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards the home team in this matchup too. The total went from 40.5 down to 38, and I can see why. Both teams have a lot of trouble scoring. Tampa Bay should enjoy the home field advantage here. Mayfield has to be getting better as the time goes on. And I don't think Atlanta's invincible either. So I'll take a tepid selection on the Buccaneers. The next one's a very exciting game here. We got the Las Vegas Raiders on the road to play the Chicago Bears. This one here ought to be one of the top football games of the week. The Raiders coming off I don't know what kind of a win you call it over the Patriots, but they are 3-point road favorites at the Chicago Bears, and the Chicago Bears fell right back into that hole that I thought they always were in before they beat Washington a few weeks ago. So I'm going to make it easy on you. I'm going to take the Raiders. Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to play. Okay, so the third-team quarterback's going to play, but he's the quarterback that McDaniels had at the Patriots, so he's familiar with him. So that guy's familiar with McDaniel's system too. I think the Raiders are playing well, and I don't even know if Justin Fields is going to play. Is that his name, the quarterback for the Bears? He's injured. We're not sure he's going to play at the time we tape this show. So in this one, I'm going to take a flyer and take the Raiders on the road and lay 3.
Brian Hoyer's good. He was a solid player at Michigan State. And he's been a solid basic backup in the National Football League. And so it's not a major loss. Jimmy Garoppolo is not the best quarterback in the league going in. Hoyer played well last Sunday, but you can't really count the last 2 victories for the Raiders because just take a look at who they beat. I'm going to take the 3 points and the Bears. on a hunch Fields does play. And you got to remember, 2 weeks ago on a Thursday night, he scores 40 points. So it's going to be somewhere between that and what they did last week. I'm going to take the Bears and the points because I don't think the Raiders are very good. And we'll see what happens.
Well, you mentioned that 40 points the Bears scored against Washington that night on a Thursday night game. That's still the biggest fluke of the entire NFL season. Okay. So a lot of people will be riding on the Bears this week. And I think the line might go down when they're very sure that Garoppolo is not going to play. But you're right. Hoyer knows the system. Hoyer's not much different than Garoppolo in this one. So we're on opposite sides of that one. I want to mention, though, last week, the look-ahead total was 45.5 on this game. And it's now 37.5. So you can tell that they're not expecting any scoring from very many of any players on any team in this one. So the under 37.5 may be the play there. Who knows? Yes, I have to agree with you about the Raiders too. The defense got a whole lot of credit last week, and they were playing the worst team in the league. I think we've now decided that the Patriots are the worst team in the league. I mean, Bill Belichick was so damn mad after the game here in Las Vegas, he broke his iPad. And he broke something else in the locker room after the game. I mean, I don't think anybody's heard of Bill Belichick throwing ranting fits. You've heard of him being a prick a lot, but you've never heard of him throwing ranting fits. And he threw one here in Las Vegas. So I don't know. Maybe the Vegas can go step up the ladder a little bit from this one. We'll have to see. That one there is definitely a toss-up game between you and I. Okay, the next one is an interesting matchup. It brings up our Indianapolis Colts. They're at home this week, 2-point underdogs to the Cleveland Browns, who had the upset of the year, beating San Francisco last week. I know why it happened, and I'll explain it during my part of the analysis, but I do want to say this to Gene Kosei III. He had Indianapolis last week, and we released the play on the show, and he had all the right ideas about it, and coming back from London and this and that and every other thing. He just happened to get a bad break on that. One game is too much to judge anyone on, so I want to give Gene a mea culpa on that one. And I spoke to him earlier this morning. In this game, he likes Indianapolis, but he has a better game coming up later in the show, so listen up. We'll give you another play from Gene. Fred, I'm going to take it first so you can beat up my analysis of it. First of all, the Cleveland Browns beat San Francisco because San Francisco's quarterback, Brock Purdy, has little bitty hands like Donald Trump. Okay? His hands are little teeny hands, and they barely fit around the football, like Donald Trump's barely fits around his honker. So when Brock Purdy was trying to throw the ball in the first and second quarter of that sloppy, rainy shithole they call Cleveland, well, he couldn't do it. He couldn't hold on to the ball. The ball slipped out of his hands. I know once he would have had a touchdown to Debo. I know one other time he would have had a first down that would have took him way down the field. And you could see the ball slip right out of his hands. And all I could think of is, my God, is he Donald Trump's kid? Look at those little bitty hands. That's all I could think about. So that's what happened to San Francisco. And then, of course, Debo got hurt in the first quarter, and then McCaffrey got hurt. And at the end of the day, they are sitting fat, and they liked their position that they were in, and they were happy, and they didn't want anybody to get hurt, and he didn't do anything over the top, the coach I'm talking about. One other thing that caught my eye was this defensive coordinator has beat Shanahan, I guess, multiple times in the past from multiple teams and everything else. Now, that's something I need to check into again. But if that coordinator can come back and beat San Francisco again, that coordinator needs some credit. I'm talking about the defensive coordinator here for Cleveland. So anyway, Cleveland does have one of the best defenses in the league. Don't tell me they're the top 5 defense in the league, though. When you're a third of the way through the NFL season and a team's in the top 5 of something, it means nothing. Okay, they got 3/4 of the season to go yet, So In this matchup, I know the Browns are supposed to have the tough defense and all of this. I'm taking Indianapolis, the home dog, to win straight up. Give Gene Kosei his revenge on this matchup. The total went down to 39 too, which is obvious because both teams had a hard time scoring. And the Colts play in a dome stadium, so Cleveland's not going to benefit from the weather in this matchup. And I think the Colts are ready for a win. I'm going to take the Colts to win straight up.
Let me just say something about last week. The odds of Mooney from Michigan missing that last second field goal were, 1 in 100, 2 in 100, 3 in 100. So even with the injuries and even with the small hands that Purdy has, they still should have won 95% of the time. Yeah. So it was a very lucky break for Cleveland and a bad break for the 49ers. But it was good news for the 1972 Miami Dolphins because with Philadelphia and San Francisco both losing, their streak of 17-0 will not be tied or actually beaten this time around. So congratulations to the 72 Dolphins.
I guess they get to do that every year. I don't mean to interrupt, but I guess they get to do that every year because for crying out loud, we're 6 weeks into the season and there are no undefeated teams. So I don't think anybody's going to go undefeated anymore. So they could just well have their little champagne brunch at the start of the year every year, as far as I'm concerned. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I don't think there'll be a lot of points scored in this one. I think I saw 41 as the total. There may not be 41 points scored. It's not a strong play, but two backup quarterbacks. The Brown again, defense not bad. Taylor, of course, second game back will play better. But Moss a good running back too. But 41 seems a little bit high in this circumstance. It's not a strong play, but it's a bit of a play from yours truly.
Oh, I think it's a play because I see some numbers down to 39 already. So 41 to 39. I think you're right on that too. I don't think they can score. A tricky game there. The Colts, we know Minshew's probably going to play again this week. And both Gene and I discussed that Minshew, if he's better than the rookie quarterback, then
Richardson.
If Richardson's better than Minshew, then it's okay. But if he's not, Indianapolis is in for a long, troublesome season. And I'm not so sure he is, and he always gets hurt. Okay, here's your Detroit Lions. I'll give you first crack at this one. Detroit Lions on the road to play the Baltimore Ravens, who come off their win in London, back home again this week. 3-point home favorites against an improved Detroit team. You like Detroit?
Yeah, I think I like big time. I like Detroit. Again, Lamar Jackson, you can never really, rely on one way or the other. Goff is playing unbelievably well. He threw it for 350-something yards on Sunday against Tampa. So I'm going to go with the Lions and go in that direction.
Well, you know something? Baltimore's having a lot of trouble scoring. And even in that game in London, the line went up on that game, clear to 5.5, and some places 6. So the line moved 3 points on that game in London in Baltimore's direction. They got off to an 18-3 halftime lead, but they struggled to win the game at the end. So, Baltimore's just not playing that well on offense. The quarterback is one highly athletic man, but he's dumb. I'm sorry. He just cannot read the offense. He don't know when to throw it away, don't know when to run. He just can't read the field. And he also gets hurt most of the time. I'm not sold on Baltimore as one of the top teams in the league here. I'm going to go with you. I think Detroit has the talent. They played a few down games early in the year, but now they're coming around. They're playing well. They got a decent quarterback. And Baltimore's coming back from London. We'll see how that affects them. It affected Buffalo. So I'm going to go with you on this one, too, and take the Detroit Lions, especially since it's one of your big ones. Why, I'll probably make it one of my big ones when I put some money down. All right, the next matchup is our exciting New England matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. The Bills are 9-point favorites after coming off a horrendous loss. That's all I can say. I mean, it was pathetic. And The total on this one went from 44.5 to 41, and it'll probably go down more before that. The Bills 9 points on the road. What do you say about Belichick's team?
I think the Bills will score a lot of points here. So, I mean, and again, you made the case early, and I think you could be right. At this moment, going into the 7th week of the season, I think the Patriots probably the worst team in all of football. In fact, they might be the worst team in the XFL. The bottom line is, so I'm going to take the Bills to score as many as they desire and win by a very, very big number.
I'm going to agree with you there. I mean, New England is done. They're completely done. They probably won't score over 3 points in this game unless they get a turnover. And I thought the Bills would come back and play a strong game after their loss to Jacksonville, but they didn't. And they need to clean up a lot of stuff on if they think they're going to make it to the Super Bowl. So this is the game they can get well on. And as long as the weather's not too bad, I agree with you. This is another one of them big blowouts. Lay the number and just sit back and watch yourself win. Okay, let's take a look at another. These games just aren't the eyeball shockers that we're used to, right? The Washington Commanders on the road to play the New York Giants. Washington's a 2-point favorite. The Giants, I made our friend Mr. Robinson upset in Philadelphia last week when I made fun of his Giants, and I said that Danny Dimes could only drop interceptions in the ball. I'm sorry, Mr. Robinson, but the Giants and the Washington Commanders can pull off some of the craziest wins you've ever seen. Now, am I correct? Both New York teams won last week, the Giants and the Jets.
Giants were close. Giants were close.
Yeah. I can't remember. What was the score of the Giants game? Do you remember?
I'm trying to think. I think they lost by 3.
Yeah, I'm going to look back because I want to be sure about this. The Jets won. We know that, which was unbelievable against Philadelphia. Sorry, folks. Bear with me 1 minute here because I have to look. The Giants got beat by Buffalo. It was the last game. It was Thursday night's game. Buffalo won the game, but they didn't cover. That was the deal. They were huge 15-point favorites, and they didn't play very well. And they could have lost the game. Is that a better explanation? Anyway, either one of these teams, I am so down on Washington and so down on the Giants that I don't know who's going to win this game. All I'd say is the total of 40. I'd play under the total on it. And we're pretty sure that Jones isn't going to play for the Giants. Washington can play whoever they want to play. I still think their defense is horrible. But even in a game against the Giants who can't score, I'm going to play the under 40. I got Washington 2-point favorite on the road.
I'm going to take Sam Howell in Washington to find a way to win here. Tyrod Taylor's not a bad quarterback, but the Giants really, I listen to WFAN sometimes, and the hosts know the truth. The Giants are really, really bad. And if the Patriots are the worst team, the Giants are close to being the worst team in the league. And, how it happened, who knows? Last year, of course, they played probably over their heads, and now they're playing down to where they really should be. And again, they played the Bills as closely as they can play them, but they still found a way to lose. And so I'm going with the Washington Commanders and Sam Howell to have a pretty big day, and we'll go from there.
Okay. I got the under on that one. Let's take a short break now, and we'll come back with the afternoon games in just a short minute or two. Hello, football fans. Dennis Tobler here with some great, exciting news for the 2024 season. You can watch Football Forecast Weekly on many outlets, from Astound TV Network to footballforecast.com, gamblingbroadcast.com, the Gambling Broadcast Network on YouTube, and many, many, many more stations. Also, I want to tell you that you can access the audio to Football Forecast Weekly on every podcast channel. So pick your favorite podcast channel and make sure you bookmark Football Forecast Weekly for every week. We're on Amazon Music or Apple Music, Amazon, all the way to Spotify and TuneIn. Every one of them carries Football Forecast Weekly. So you want to win and you want to win big, stay tuned to Football Forecast Weekly each week right here on this station. Welcome back to Football Forecast Weekly, everyone. I'm Dennis Tobler. I'm here with Fred Wallen. We're analyzing the NFL games for week 7. We're on to the afternoon games here, but before I go any farther, I want to back up to that Cleveland Browns matchup. Last week on the show, I mentioned I hadn't heard from Nick the Destroyer, a guy who I know bets well, and I've known him for 30 years in Los Angeles. So he contacted me and he told me, my play's the Browns. And I go, do you know the lines went from 7 to 9.5 and the quarterbacks are out and all that? He goes, I know all that. He says, that's why I'm doing it, because the line's too high. And he says, Cleveland has a good defense and they may even beat them because San Francisco don't care. I go, okay, Nick, I'll mark that one down, as I laughed. But what happened? Chicago come back and won, and Nick cashed out some money line plays and some money line parlays that made him more money last week than all the rest of us have. So congratulations to Nick the Destroyer on that Cleveland Browns pick over the 49ers. I mean, he's in LA, so I mean, he should know a little bit about the California teams, but that was a shocker. Also, I want to shout out to Kurt in San Francisco. Good to hear from you again, Kurt. Thanks for the input on everything. Welcome back on board with Football Forecast Weekly. These guys from Pennsylvania to Oakland to San Francisco to Los Angeles to Vegas, all these guys' input into us really helps by the end of the week when we make our picks. And at the end of the week, I make my picks. I put them up on footballforecast.com. Anyone who wants to purchase my picks for the weekend can do so by going to footballforecast.com and clicking on the page to buy the picks. Now, also on that page, I have my money management system. So even if you don't want to buy the picks, go to footballforecast.com, read about the money management system, and learn how you can better become a winner at betting on pro football. So don't forget it. Write it down. Footballforecast.com. Not only can you view the show there, but you can get my weekend selections there too. Okay. I did thank Kurt in San Francisco. He was a little sad about the 49ers loss, but he too was not that surprised about them not covering the line there. And it was the biggest play on the board in all the contests in Las Vegas last week. As you can imagine, everybody took San Francisco laying 7 or 7.5 points. When they went to 9.5, the contest players all loaded up and the contest players all lost. So as you can see, there's nothing certain in pro football. All right, quickly now, let's move on to the late games. The Arizona Cardinals are at Seattle. I know you like Seattle. I didn't like them last week, and I was right. Arizona is not playing like they were before, and the reason is this. The other teams have had time to watch what they're doing now, to see their offensive and defensive setups, and they don't have the talent that most of the other teams have. The line started at Seattle 7, has moved to 8 already.
Last week, they outgained the Bengals, Seattle did, by 167 yards, and they still lost the game. They're not going to lose to Arizona. Again, Arizona has lost 3 in a row now. I like their young quarterback, who has indicated the aeronautical engineer from the University of Tennessee. But I think Geno Smith and his gang will find a way to score a lot of points against the Cardinals in this one. And I think last time I checked, the number was only 7.5 or 8. I think they'll win by 2 or 3 touchdowns. So I'm going to take Seattle as one of my best plays of the weekend. Yeah, I do like Seattle. I like guys like Geno Smith, who have battled to get a starting slot a lot of his career. And finally, last year, of course, he got the comeback player of the year. And he is proving that last year wasn't a fake. Again, they outgained Cincinnati by 167 yards. You're supposed to win in a circumstance like that. They didn't. So I think they'll make up for it this week.
They had several plays that were a comedy of errors last week that could have turned that game around. they were competitive against it. Cincinnati's got a tough ball team when it comes to throwing deep. I'm going to go with you on this one. I think Seattle wins this going away. They're not going to like what happened last week. They're going to try to prevent that from happening again this week. And I think they'll cover this one very easily too. Okay, the next matchup, I'm excited to see what you think of this matchup. Pittsburgh Steelers at the Los Angeles Rams, playing at SoFi. The Rams are 3-point favorites in this matchup. I'm going to let you go first.
You know, my hunch is that Nakia has only caught the youngster from BYU only caught 4 passes for 26 yards last week. Since Kupp has been back, obviously his numbers are going to go down. I understand that, but not 4 for 26 yards. I have a hunch right now. Sean McVay is talking to his club, and he's talking to himself, and he's going to get the ball to Nakia a whole slew of times. The other side of this one, so it's a very delicate thing, is that take a look at Pittsburgh's games this year. The unders have covered, I think, every game but one. So you got to be very careful as far as the Steelers are concerned here. It's a game I can't wager one way or the other. And again, you know, Kupp being back, and you know, you would say the Rams should score a lot, but who knows against a team like the Steelers that can play some tough defense. So Fred's going to pass, and he'll watch that one, and we'll see if I'm right about Nakia. If you're playing fantasy, if he catches maybe 8 or 9 passes this week for the Rams.
Well, that wasn't much help, Mr. Wallen, for the guy who wants to get an input from you from the Rams. Let me say this. I think the Rams are undervalued here. Okay. I think Pittsburgh is overvalued on the road coming out there playing in LA. I don't think they can come close to the Rams. Pittsburgh's quarterback only has one receiver to throw to. Yeah, their defense is good, but look, their coach is not innovative. He can't do anything. I think the Rams are bigger, faster, stronger. I may be getting an argument from the East Coast, but I do, and I'm going to take the Rams in this matchup. So we at least have one of us on the side of the Rams.
Let me just add this, though. Kyren Williams, their number 1 running back, gained 158 yards last week. 90, I'm almost sure he's out. 90, they said he didn't practice on Monday. They're almost sure he's not going to play this week. So it's going to be a one-sided thing. They're going to have to pass. And as indicated, I think Nakia and Kupp can catch passes, but that 158 yards on the ground certainly led the Rams to the win over Arizona last week, and they will not have him this week. So that's got to be put into the ballpark when you're making a prediction.
Yeah, a lot of times that's too, but in my opinion, when guys do that, a lot of times it's the offensive line that needs to get the credit, and maybe he won't come back with 160. And in other words, any other running back with decent ability may have ran for that much too because of the offensive line. Going with the Rams here, I got another LA team for you. This one, of course, has got to be on the road, the Chargers. They're going to Kansas City to play the Chiefs. The Chiefs are 5.5-point favorites in this matchup. It'll probably be 6 by the time kickoff goes. I mean, I don't know why it went from 6 to 5.5 because Chargers didn't show that much. How do you see it? Chiefs home? Pretty easy.
You know, I'm a big Mahomes guy. He is not playing well in 2023. He's going to turn that around. And he's probably going to turn that around at home. And the Chargers, off a sort of a heartbreaking loss on Monday night, I don't know if they'll have that all much that left. You know, I'm not a big Brandon Staley fan. I know you're not a big Andy Reid guy. So, but I think Kansas City, Kelsey will have his girlfriend upstairs, and I think he'll score a couple touchdowns. And I think Mahomes will play better. And I think it's under a touchdown. I think Kansas City will win it. It's 5.5 or 6. I'm going to go with the Chiefs.
Same here. The total's up from 42 to 50 and then back down to 49 as people took it back again. There could be a lot of scoring in this matchup here. The Chargers defense is pretty poor. The coaching is very poor. And even though I don't like Reed very much, he is much better coach than Staley. So he's got that going for him too. Yeah, I think Kansas City will roll here. I think it's a tough game for the Chargers to get beat last Monday night and then to come back and try to play well in Kansas City. And I think the Chargers better do a lot more than they're doing or they're about out. So I'm going to take the Chiefs in this matchup too. And I really like them at 5.5 or 6. I mean, if I can get 5 or half and 6, I'm pretty sure they'll win by 7. So I'm going to jump on them. Okay, let's take a look at the Green Bay Packers, who aren't all that much this year, playing the Denver Broncos, who are now in the outhouse. Okay, and not only are they in the outhouse, but they're in the midst of trading away all of their people who are any good. You're right about Jerry Jeudy. You mentioned that last week. They're going to trade him. I'm pretty sure they're going to trade him. I'm not so sure they're not even going to trade Russell Wilson. Now, I'll tell you why, because you know who the new owners of the Denver Broncos are? The Walton family. You know, the billionaires that own half of the world. Do you think the billionaires that own half the world give a shit whether Denver wins or loses their football games? No, I don't think they do. And I don't think the Denver fans are going to learn this for a couple of years yet. But if you've got the multi-billionaires who run the big corporations running your football team, you better look for them to get rid of everything and to start making some money, because that's what Denver's going to do. They're going to sell out. They've got draft choices up the yin-yang down the road, and they're going to trade away all their talent before the end of the year. I'm going to take Denver here as a surprise because they're all fighting for their jobs. And they need to put up a good effort this week, especially Russell Wilson. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I've watched Green Bay. They're horrible. And I don't know how Love was ever considered a big-time quarterback. And Jordan Love will never be a big-time quarterback. So unless the defense can keep Denver out of the end zone here, I'm going to take Denver in a shocker.
Well, the Packers can't be favored over anybody on the road. So they are. So the common sense is this is a big mistake. As bad as Denver is, I mean, again, we're talking the Giants being horrible and the Patriots being horrible. Denver's played horribly, but I don't think they're as bad as these other two teams, because I think this team can score points. Wilson did not play well last week. He had the two wide receivers. I think Denver will win easily, to tell you the truth, at home. And October 31 is the trading deadline. We'll see who they do deal away. And Judy's name is mentioned everywhere. I mean, it just is. And Wilson's name, as you indicated, is also mentioned. I mean, between the two, I mean, more people are going to go for Judy than for Wilson because one's younger and one's not. I'm going with Wilson to have a pretty big day Sunday. So, and again, the Packers basically stink. So we'll go with the Denver Broncos at home.
Me too. Denver Broncos at home. Surprise, surprise. The night game should be very interesting. The Miami Dolphins on the road take on the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles were early week 2.5-point favorites. The line went down to 1. It's back up to 1.5. Home team Eagles favored over the fast, high-flying Miami Dolphins. The only thing I will say is Tyreek hurt his calf or his thigh, his hamstring a little bit. He twinged it. Now, I don't know whether he'll be back or not, but he makes a world of difference because he opens up the entire offense when he's on the field. And in this game, I'm going to go against Philadelphia. I don't think they've been playing that well. They have a tough defense. They've been number 1 on the bookies' rankings all year long. I don't think they will be after this week. Look, Miami came back from a 14-0 deficit and won by 21 points. I don't know what else that has to tell you about their offense. And I think their offense will outscore Philly no matter what happens here. I'm taking Miami.
I think it'll be a high-scoring game, so I'm going the over. But let me just state one thing that's, to me, has always been interesting. Hurts was at Alabama, and Tua was at Alabama. Tua gets the start, and then Hurts transfers to Oklahoma. That's something that's going to be in his head. So hunch is he plays pretty well again, I just think I'm not going to make a prediction who's going to win the game. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. I think this will be a big Sunday night game. A lot of people will watch, and you'll keep watching for the whole 3 hours, and we'll see how many points are scored. I think a lot of points.
I do too. I think it'll be a fun game. There's a lot of talented players on the field in that one, and it will be a great one to watch. I too like the over in that matchup. One more game left this week because of our short schedule, and then I want to talk a short bit about baseball. The 49ers are on the road again this week to play the Minnesota Vikings. The Niners are 7. I spoke to Kurt in San Francisco. He likes the Niners laying the points. I do too. I'm taking the Niners. Minnesota just flubs away everything. San Francisco's too good. I don't believe Deebo Samuel will play. I'm not sure they're going to play McCaffrey either, because it's an oblique, which, you know, have you ever had an oblique? I've had one for 40 years. So, you know, how the hell you ever get well from an oblique, I don't know. Okay. So the 49ers are 7 at Minnesota. How do you see it?
Again, I think a lot of points will be scored. As good as the 49er defense is, and it's probably the best in the league, I have a hunch that Cousins will have a pretty big day. You know, his name has been mentioned as far as a possibility of trading, but then they played better last week. I don't think that's going to happen. As he indicated, he's not leaving. He's got a no trade, so they can't deal him away. But the big negative for Minnesota is that Justin Jefferson, if not the best, Tyreek Hill might be the best, but if not him, it is Justin Jefferson. He's out. So that is a major, major loss. So you got the loss of Jefferson on one side. As you indicated, you've got the Deebo loss, and you've got the McCaffrey perhaps loss too. So I just have a hunch that there'll be a lot of points scored, and the 49ers have a lot of ways to score besides those two. And Minnesota's got a lot of ways to score too. So we're going to go with the over again. Total's not that high, so we're going to go with the over, and I think it'll be a fun Monday night game too. And you know, we've had some losing Thursday, Sunday, and Monday nighters. I think this week on Sunday. I think on Sunday.
It'll be better this week for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Minnesota Vikings. I agree with you there. It's a tough game, and there should be a lot of scoring in it. I want to add this before we go off the football topic. Last week, Fred, the unders were 13-2. The unders were 13-2. I think that tells you as the season goes on, the defenses are getting caught up with the offenses a little bit. Maybe some of these games, they got the numbers too high on. You want to watch them move because they're moving dramatically. I don't really think anybody knows, including the syndicates, about it. One last thing I wanted to touch on with you before we have to go is, when was the last time you seen the baseball playoffs get through with all the underdogs winning and sweeping and no games over the weekend before the conference championships? I mean, I cannot hardly remember a time when there were no games before the conference championships, no extra added games.
Okay, so my opinion is their setup is totally ridiculous at this moment in time. You play 162 games and you get 5 days off. And I don't care whatever they say. I don't care if you practice every day at Dodger Stadium or every day with the Atlanta Braves. That's not the same as playing. What I would do again is just have I would make the winner of the division very, very important. And if you're a wild card, a one game, that's it, game on Monday or Tuesday after the season, just one game, losers out, winners in, and then you play 4 out of 7 to make up for the lost revenue in not playing 2 out of 3 in that first round. You have to give the winner of division more credit and more credence. Look, the two teams, I'm a Dodger fan, but the team I like watching this year the best, the Atlanta Braves. The odds of them losing 3 out of 4, if they didn't have to wait 5 days, I don't care if it's the Philadelphia or anybody else, very slim. 1 through 9, you have Michael Harris, one of the best players in baseball, batting 9th for the Atlanta Braves. But if they don't play for 5 days, you just can't be sharp. That's the end of that. So, and they lose in 4, the Dodgers lose in 3. So they're going to have to change the entire setup. to satisfy me, and I think satisfy a lot of fans, because the teams that are remaining aren't the teams that really should be there.
Well, in my opinion, they are, because I'm a Philadelphia Phillies fanatic, because I love Bryce Harper. I love Stott. I love all the Las Vegas boys who earned their way to the big leagues and not only got there, but took over. There's not a better player than Bryce Harper in the major leagues anywhere. He's by far the greatest player, by far the greatest influencer of a crowd. I mean, he stepped up to bat this last game they were in. First pitch, he hits a home run after the guy ahead of him hit a home run. Okay, so the crowd has gone nuts. There are no outs into the first inning, and there's two runs on the board by Philadelphia. And then Bryce comes to bat the next inning, swings at the first pitch, hits a double down the line, scores a run. Okay, so there we go. You know, he's the greatest player in baseball. I've watched that kid since he was in high school. Let me tell you, when he was in high school, he was playing junior college ball. When he was in junior college, he was supposed to be a high school kid, and he graduated there. Then he gets drafted before he was even out of junior high school. So this guy's 31 years old now and controls the league. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for his family. And I'm happy for people who really work their ass off and are becoming successes, because these Las Vegas kids here that are in the major leagues playing baseball, look, they have a tough route to go. And there's a lot of them there and a lot of them excelling. So I'm taking the Philadelphia Phillies. I'm being with the fanatic, and go Bryce Harper. I think that about covers it all this week. I have no hockey insights for you, or no NBA insights. And it's a little early in the season. Can they at least give us till November for those kind of things? You know, I mean,
What I found out before we go, LeBron James' son, Bronny James, for USC, who had the heart problem, but I guess he's back playing again. Do you know how much money he has made from NIL, on the collegiate game? How much he's making right now?
I have no idea.
$7.5 million.
A year?
Bronny James, yeah, right now, and they haven't played a game yet.
I think we need to talk about that maybe next week at the top of the show or something, because there's a lot of players that's affecting the transfer portal. That's affecting everything in college football. So yeah, we'll have to get to some of that. That's an interesting note too. Well, folks, it's come time to an end for another edition of Football Forecast Weekly. We had a great show today. I want to thank Fred Wallen very much for his insights. And I want to thank Alan Jett in Tennessee. Alan, you do a great job for us each and every week. I want everybody to stay tuned. We'll be back again, same time, same station next week. Don't miss us, and be sure and download and listen to the audio podcast on all the Revolver podcast channels. Until next week, goodbye and good luck.